Once upon a time, in a quiet little village at the edge of a deep forest, there lived a husband and wife who longed for a child. Their home overlooked the garden of a powerful sorceress, whose herbs and flowers were said to hold great magic. One day, the wife, gazing longingly into the sorceress's garden, saw a patch of fresh, green rampion, a leafy plant, so tender and sweet it made her hunger grow with each passing day. Her craving became unbearable. She turned pale and weak, whispering to her husband, "If I cannot taste that rampion, I fear I will die." The husband, loving her dearly, could not bear to see her suffer. One night, under cover of darkness, he climbed over the high wall into the sorceress's garden. There he gathered a handful of rampion and brought it to his wife, who ate it greedily and found her strength renewed. But her craving grew stronger still, and the next night the husband returned to steal more. This time, however, the sorceress was waiting. With a terrible cry, she appeared before him, her eyes blazing and her voice sharp as a knife. "How dare you steal from my garden, thief? You shall pay with your life." The man fell to his knees, trembling. "Mercy, great sorceress, my wife is with child, and she craved your rampion so desperately that she grew ill. I stole only to save her." The sorceress's expression softened, though her gaze remained cold. "So be it," she said. "I will spare your life, but in return, the child your wife bears shall be mine. I will raise it as my own, and you will never see her again." Terrified, the man agreed. When his wife gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, the sorceress appeared, took the child into her arms, and vanished into the night. She named the girl Rapunzel after the rampion that had cost her freedom. Rapunzel grew into a child of extraordinary beauty, with hair as golden as sunlight and a voice that could melt even the coldest heart. But the sorceress, fearing the world would one day steal Rapunzel from her, locked the girl in a tall tower deep in the forest. The tower had no door, no stairs, only a single high window that opened to the sky. The sorceress alone could reach her. Each time she wished to enter, she called from below, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And Rapunzel, hearing the command, would unwind her long, golden tresses. The hair fell in a shining cascade, reaching the ground like a silken rope, and the sorceress would climb up to her imprisoned child. Though her prison was bright and filled with books, Rapunzel was lonely. She spent her days singing at the window, her voice drifting like a songbird's across the forest. Travelers who passed through the woods sometimes paused, believing the voice belonged to an angel, but none could see her, for the tower was hidden by thick trees and brambles. Years passed, and Rapunzel grew into a young woman, her beauty shining brighter than the sun itself. One day, a prince rode hunting through the forest. As evening fell, he heard a song so sweet it stilled the very air. He followed the sound until he came upon the hidden tower. Looking up, he saw Rapunzel at her window, her golden hair glinting in the last rays of sunset. He longed to speak to her, but there was no way to climb the wall hidden among the trees. He waited. Soon the sorceress arrived and called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." To his amazement, the maiden dropped her shining braids, and the sorceress climbed up. When she departed, the prince remained in the shadows, pondering. The next day, he returned and, standing at the base of the tower, called in a clear voice, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." The braids fell, and the prince climbed up. When he reached the window, Rapunzel gasped in surprise at the stranger before her. At first, she trembled with fear. "Who are you? How did you come here?" The prince bowed deeply. "I am your friend, fair maiden. I heard your song, and it touched my soul. I could not rest until I saw you with my own eyes." Rapunzel's fear melted as she looked into his kind eyes. They spoke for hours, and laughter filled the tower for the first time. Day after day, the prince returned. They shared stories, songs, and dreams, and soon their hearts grew bound by love. "Rapunzel," the prince whispered one evening, "will you be my wife? I will take you far from this tower, where no walls shall confine you." Joy shone in her eyes. "Yes," she replied, "but how the sorceress climbs my hair if I were to descend, she would surely know." The prince thought for a moment. "Each night I will bring you a skein of silk. We shall weave them into a ladder, and when it is strong enough, you will climb down to freedom." Rapunzel agreed, and their secret plan began, but secrets cannot remain hidden forever. One day, Rapunzel, in her innocence, asked the sorceress, "Mother Gothel, why is it that you are so much heavier than the prince when you climb my hair?" At once, the sorceress's eyes narrowed with fury. "What is this you say?" she shrieked. She grabbed Rapunzel's golden locks and, in a rage, snipped them off with a cruel knife. Then she cast the girl into a desolate desert, where she wandered alone, weeping. That night, the sorceress tied Rapunzel's severed hair to the window. When the prince arrived and called, she let down the golden braid. Unaware of the trap, he climbed eagerly, but instead of Rapunzel, he found the sorceress waiting with a mocking smile. "So, you are the thief who would steal my flower," she hissed. "You shall never see her again." With a gesture, she summoned a storm of magic. The prince was hurled from the tower, landing among thorns that blinded his eyes. Stumbling and broken-hearted, he wandered the forest, calling out for Rapunzel in vain. Years passed. Rapunzel lived in the wilderness, her golden hair now short, her clothes worn to rags. Yet she survived, singing to ease her sorrow. One day, as fate would have it, the prince stumbled into the very desert where Rapunzel dwelled. Blind and weary, he heard a familiar voice drifting through the air, a song he had not forgotten. "Rapunzel," he cried. At his voice, she ran to him, and they fell into each other's arms. Tears streamed from her eyes, and, as they touched his face, a miracle occurred. Her tears healed his blindness. He opened his eyes and beheld her once more. Joy overwhelmed them both. Hand in hand, they left the desert and journeyed back to his kingdom. There, the people welcomed Rapunzel as their princess, and soon after, a grand wedding was held. The sorceress was never seen again, and the tower crumbled into ruin, a relic of the past. Rapunzel and the prince ruled with wisdom and kindness, their hearts bound forever by the trials they had endured. The maiden who had once been trapped in a tower now walked freely beneath the sun, her voice filling the air with songs of hope. And so, Rapunzel lived happily ever after, her golden hair shining like the dawn of a new day.